The show where there are no penalties, nothing is offside, and everything is fair game. This is The Gloves Are Off.
Welcome to this week's edition of The Gloves Are Off. I'm back. Emmett Murphy filled in last week, did a great job. But here, I'm pleased to be joined, as always, Craig Buchanan of the CPCA, The Voice. You were just in Calgary. How was it?
Great 3 days. Hot, tremendous crowds. 100th anniversary of the Calgary Stampede. 27,000 plus on hand that Sunday for Chuck Wagon. So that's just amazing.
Yeah, and they got bull riding this week too as well, and kind of wrapping the whole Chuck Wagons up. It's certainly a great time to be there, but not too bad to be here. And I'm pleased to be joined by Ruben Baker, playing for the Border City Blue Jays. How are you today?
Good. Glad to be here, thanks.
Yeah, and you guys also have provincials. You guys are the hosts this year. Certainly an exciting time, but not so much when it comes to working outside in 30-degree weather.
No, this little heat snap here is a little different for us, but still appreciated for sure.
All right. Well, let's talk about the buzz that happened in the NHL, of course. The big signing by the Minnesota Wild, signing both Zach Parise and Ryan Suter. Definitely a shock to everybody, but definitely, can you describe, how would you describe this trade, really, or this signing, really?
Well, as you said, it kind of came as a shock, but then you look a little deeper and you see that they kind of had roots there. Suter's wife's from there, and Parise somehow had some ties there. So a little bit of a shock, but it's kind of the growing trend as well of these athletes coming together and kind of trying to buddy up with their buddies and create these super teams, especially in the NBA, but in hockey and baseball as well. They're really co-joining and trying to get at the very least, they're going to be playing with their good friends. So, and then the money always is a nice little perk.
$98 million for 8 seasons, so that's not too bad.
Not bad at all. It's again another long-term contract that the CBA is going to be dealing with in the fall, and another big money for 2 players that, you know, Zach Parise is a good player. Suter's a good player. Are they that good for that kind of money, or is it the free agent market that weak this year? You know, they're the top free agents available right now, so they're the top dollar. If they weren't, then it'd be interesting to see if, you know, who else would be a free agent to get that kind of money. But it's a good signing for Minnesota. They're a pretty mediocre team at best. Haven't been in the playoffs for a few years. I've only won 1 playoff series in the history of that club. So a little bit of pressure on those two to bring that team up to a different level now.
They did reach a West final a few years back, around the 03 or so. But like you say, there is really a lack of history and sort of tradition with the Minnesota Wild when it comes to the playoffs. But are we going to see now a shift to the Western Conference? You're starting to see a little bit more of the powers go over there, particularly in that Northwest Division. It's going to be much more of a challenge for the Vancouver Canucks.
Yeah, I would agree. Except for the point like this year, only obviously the Canucks making the playoffs out of the division. You could say Calgary's going to be on the decline, and the theory is Edmonton's supposed to be on the uptick. Whether that happens or not, we'll wait and see. But I think it does level it out. It's always tough. The NHL, especially with the overtime and getting that extra point, it's really tough to separate the field. So I guess if those guys can bring 5-6 more wins a year, then you're right in contention all the time and on the cusp of getting to where you need to be. And as LA showed this year, it doesn't matter what place you're coming into the playoffs as long as you're making the playoffs.
I think there's a few teams on the decline in the West, probably more than you got. San Jose probably on the decline. They're getting a little bit older. Joe and the boys are declining in their years. Anaheim's a pretty average club right now. Vancouver, who knows what's going to happen there. Flames are old and not getting any better. And the Oilers are young, but I don't know if they're ready for that big move yet.
I guess we'll have to see how this plays out come October and later on to April. But let's move on to the Vancouver Canucks. We'll just keep on that topic. Roberto Luongo, of course, they signed Schneider to a deal. So it's kind of eventual. They're going to have to get rid of Luongo in the next coming days or weeks ahead. Who would be a better fit for him? Florida, Tampa Bay, Toronto, or is there another team?
Well, I don't know if there's a best fit for him. Going back, he was in Florida, obviously, at one point, and his wife's from there, so happy wife, happy life, possibly for him. The big thing is Gillis has kind of got his hands tied because of the huge contract, and these teams can offer probably 25 cents on the dollar to try and get Luongo, because they don't have any leverage when dealing with that, and they know they have to move him, and can kind of give up a lot lower caliber of player to gain his services. So as to what fit really works for him, I don't necessarily know if any. Toronto, obviously, the hype behind him, but as far as being a proven goaltender, he puts up some wins and things like that, but when it really comes down to it, obviously the Stanley Cup run 2 years ago was big, but he's not exactly proven over and over again that he's worth the money that he's getting. So these teams, I think, would be hesitant to put all their eggs in the basket of Luongo.
One team they're not really talking about that is interested in Bobby Lou is Chicago. Chicago's in need of some net mining there. Toronto could be a good fit for him. Takes away the spotlight for Brian Burke. Everybody gets kind of sick and tired of seeing him on camera all the time. All of a sudden, Bobby Lou might come on the camera a little bit more and take away the general manager that loves his press time.
Chicago might be a little bit iffy, though, because if you think about the history between those two teams in the playoffs, chances are I don't think you want to trade him to, like you say, a rival.
But if Chicago comes up with the right deal, and that's the thing, if let's see what Chicago has to offer. I think Vancouver's at the state right now where they're going to take offers, just like Columbus is waiting for Nash. They're waiting for the right deal. Hats off to Houston. Hats off to Columbus for waiting for the right deal, and not just throwing away Rick Nash for nothing.
Well, they still have him under contract, so that kind of helps out just a little bit. Let's moving on to Steve Nash, a guy who was supposed to be dubbed the savior of Canadian basketball, coming to Toronto, helping the team. And it wasn't like he was going to get paid peanuts. He was going to be one of the top players in terms of grossing money in a 3-year deal. But he decided to take less money and go to LA because, 1, family reasons, and 2, having a chance to win a championship. Now, do you feel that he snubbed the Raptors?
Well, I think the media built up Steve Nash coming to Toronto more than Steve Nash built up himself going to Toronto. It would have been a great fit. It would have been a great story and all the headlines, Captain Canada coming home. But you know what? At the end of the day, Steve Nash did the deal that he was going to be happy with, and that's staying out in California, staying out in the South, and he thinks he has a chance of winning in LA. I have my doubts, but good luck to him. But you know what? Nobody wants to play in Toronto. That's why the Raptors are having problems. No big free agents want to come to Toronto. It's a graveyard for basketball players right now.
Yeah, the media definitely, Toronto gets a little bit of a story and runs away with it, and has far too many media outlets to do that sort of thing. And sure, they're going to offer him the moon to come play, but as far as putting the pressure on a 39-year-old guy to come in and change that franchise around would be ridiculous. And it did totally make sense for him to try and chase that championship. Obviously, I wish he wouldn't have gone to the Lakers, as now I have to hate him along with the rest of them. But you do what you do, and at that age too, this is his last major contract kind of thing, and he could have kind of sold himself out, and I'm glad that he didn't. It showed the character somewhat of him to not just take the money and take the easy road and kind of be the fanboy, and he's taken that challenge, and he's going to go play with one of the best players in the world.
And you can't argue that, but quickly, we'll ask both of you, does this deal make the Lakers instant favorites in the West?
He's 39. He's not a young guy anymore. He's a leader on that team. I think more than anything, he probably fits better with the Lakers because they do have some key ingredients for successful in the court, unlike Toronto, where they would be more pressure for him to perform night after night, not just be a leader. Where in LA, a little bit of leadership more than anything on the court. And yeah, I still think he has what it takes, but at the same time, he's not going to be a key clog and the reason why the Lakers are going to win or not. It's just one of many ingredients.
Yeah, Kobe, how he deals with Steve will be interesting. He's not never had a top point guard.
I think he'd love it, though.
So that
dynamic. You think he'd have to love that because he's got a guy who makes everybody's stats better. Wherever he's gone, he's always improved the team. But do you feel that they're actually favorites? Would you agree with that?
I think they'd be in the top 4 for sure. Oklahoma City's a great club and only getting better. Be interesting to see what they do with Harden there. The West is strong. Clippers are getting better. That rivalry will only increase. It's good basketball no matter what in the West. So to say they're automatically the favorites would be a far step because of the age. Kobe's getting older.
Yeah.
All right,
Nash is
well,
older,
we'll
Gasol's
have to
older.
just quickly end on that note, but we'll be back with more Gloves Are Off after this 2-minute timeout.